A very good morning, my dear students. We are continuing chapter 4, Human Development. In previous few videos, we have completed the childhood, the early childhood, the middle and the later childhood. We understand the physical development in childhood by cephalocordic and the proxydactyl development on the physical basis. Then the motor development, how the fine motor skills and the gross motor skills will be developed, and after that the socio-emotional development, and last aspect is the socio-emotional development. Okay, and in cognitive development we have already understand the concept of the animism and the egocentrism and the centration, how it is overcome in the age of the later childhood, and the moral development also. So this is all about the childhood, how the childhood is all the aspects of the childhood is developed in a different areas by the different perspectives. Okay, so the understanding of the moral development in a very clear way, I want to share a video with you. The video was given by the कोलबर्ग थ्योरी. ठीक है, ये जो वीडियो है बेसिकली कोलबर्ग की थ्योरी का है. इट इज़ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग वीडियो. लेट्स सी द वीडियो.
At some point in your life, you've probably been faced with a moral dilemma. Consider this example. A father tells his daughter, Lauren, that she can have a bike if she saves enough money from her weekly allowance to pay for half of it. Then when Lauren tells her father she's saved up all the money, her father reverses his decision and tells Lauren to give him the money because he wants to use it to buy beer. On the one hand, Lauren wants to obey her father. On the other, she doesn't want to support his destructive drinking habits. Lauren is torn about giving her father the money. Psychologist Lawrence Kohlberg was really interested in how children develop their ability to make moral decisions like this one. He came up with several stages of moral development, which, though not without from other psychologists, form a good starting point to think about these questions. It's important to remember that not everyone, even adults, necessarily makes it into all of the higher stages. People first pass through two stages known collectively as the pre-conventional level. In the very first stage, people are motivated by trying to avoid punishment. Their actions are bad if they get punished and good if they don't. In this stage, Lauren would give her father the money because she doesn't want him to punish her. At the second stage, people are motivated purely by self-interest. So Lauren at this stage would likely keep the money, thinking that if she can't afford a bike, she can use it to buy something else good for herself. And the next level of moral development is the conventional, and it also contains two stages. Adolescents typically operate at this level, as do some adults. In stage 3, people make moral decisions based on getting people to like them. Lauren might decide to give her father the money because it'll improve her relationship with him. But if her mother is upset by her father's drinking, she might also decide to give the money to her mother in order to be a good girl in her eyes. Her decision would be based on whichever social relationship seemed the most important. And stage 4, moral reasoning, centers around maintaining a functioning society by recognizing that laws are more important than individual needs. In this stage, Lauren probably wouldn't give her father the money because his alcoholism is disruptive to the stability of her family and community. The final level of moral development is called the post-conventional. Not all adults reach this level. Many are stuck at some of the earlier stages. Post-conventional moral thinkers reject the rigidity of laws, believing that they should be ignored or changed if they're not good laws. In stage 5, people will try to act in ways that achieve the most good for the most number of people. They'd judge a law as unjust if it failed to do this. Lauren at this stage would not give her father the money because she'd recognize that his alcoholism is hurting the family and himself. Stage 6 thinkers develop ethical principles and a sense of justice. Actions are taken because they are right in themselves, not because they help achieve other goals. Though Kohlberg theorized that this stage existed, he had trouble finding people who were always operating at this level. For Lauren to exhibit stage 6 moral reasoning, she'd have to have a real strongly developed sense of injustice of giving her father money for beer. Kohlberg's theories are not without their detractors. Perhaps the best known of his critics, who criticized Kohlberg's stages for being too focused on boys. Kohlberg claimed that boys tended to reach higher stages more frequently than girls, which Gilligan and others have taken issue with. Yet Kohlberg has remained influential, largely because he took the first steps toward defining moral values through empirical studies. Though his conclusions may be flawed and even sexist, his methodology is important. So we've learned that Lawrence Kohlberg's theory of moral development proposes that 3 levels on which we make judgments of right and wrong. Pre-conventional decisions are based on the direct consequences of the individual who is perpetrating the morally questionable act. Conventional decisions are based on wanting to please and be accepted by others. And post-conventional decisions are based on individually formulated sense of justice and respect for others.
So this is all about the Kohlberg's theory. There are 3 stages. First stage is show the bad or the good concept. Then the second stage is about the punishment and the reward, and the last stage, which is the final stage of moral development, is basically governed by the true justice. Okay, what is right or what is wrong, the values which we respect and which we assimilate, and our decisions according to our values. Okay, this is the last stage. This is all about the childhood. The moral development is completed. Now move to the next developmental stage, which is adolescence. And you are in the age of adolescence, so you can definitely correlate with the concepts with you. ठीक है, आप उससे कोरिलेट कर पाओगे, आप अच्छे से अंडरस्टैंड कर पाओगे, आपको हर पॉइंट पे लगेगा कि येस दिस इज़ दी राइट, ऐसे ही तो होता है हमारे साथ. सो दिस इज़ योर स्टेज एंड यू विल definitely enjoy the knowing your stage. So adolescence, that's been a period जहाँ पे आप ना चाइल्ड रह जाते हो और ना ही आर यू बिकमिंग अ अडल्ट. आप एक अडल्ट भी नहीं हो, एक चाइल्ड भी नहीं हो. सम टाइम इन सम सिचुएशंस, इन सम सर्कमस्टेंसेस आपसे एक्सपेक्ट किया जाएगा कि आप एज अ एडल्ट बिहेव करो, एंड इन सम टाइम आपको कहा जाएगा यू आर नॉट इनफ मैच्योर, यू आर नॉट इनफ अडल्ट, सो बिहेव इन अ चाइल्डिश मैनर. ठीक है, तो बड़े कन्फ्यूज़न की स्टेज होती है एडल्सेंस. बहुत सारी प्रॉब्लम्स, बहुत सारे कॉम्प्लिकेशंस, बिकॉज यहाँ पे फिज़िकल डेवलपमेंट जो है वो काफ़ी फोकस रहता है. आपका सोशियो इमोशनल डेवलपमेंट एंड द मॉरल डेवलपमेंट ऑलमोस्ट कंप्लीट हो चुका रहता है, मोटर डेवलपमेंट कंप्लीट हो चुका रहता है, बट द फिजिकल डेवलपमेंट इज़ वेरी मच हाई. यू आर द पीरियड, दिस इज द पीरियड ऑफ प्यूबर्टी. आप सेक्सुअली मैच्योर होते रहते हो, अपोजिट सेक्स के लिए अट्रैक्शन रहता है. एट द सेम टाइम बहुत सारे फिजिकल चेंजेस की वजह से आप कंफ्यूज रहते हैं. एट द सेम टाइम दिस इज़ द टाइम फॉर डिसीजन मेकिंग. ठीक है, रिलेटेड टू चॉइस ऑफ सब्जेक्ट, रिलेटेड टू योर वोकेशनल इंटरेस्ट. ठीक है, आप एट द सेम टाइम द नोइंग अबाउट योर आइडेंटिटी. So this is the stage of identity crisis also. You are becoming, or you are awareing about yourself completely, and you develop your personality completely, the developing your identity also. So this is the very crucial period. This is the very क्या कह सकते हैं, एक बहुत बड़ी साइकोलॉजिस्ट ने कहा है कि जो एडल्सेंस है वो एक बहुत ही तूफान का स्टेज है. ठीक है, तो इसमें आप एक तूफान की तरह से गुजरते हो. सो लेट्स सी. So challenges of adolescence, क्या क्या challenges हैं and what are the concepts? So basically the term adolescence derived from the Latin word adolescere, meaning to grow into maturity. ठीक है, maturity that's mean the physical aspects of the development, and it is the transitional period in a person's life between childhood and adulthood. And adolescence is commonly defined as the stage of life that begins at the onset of puberty, and when sexual maturity or the ability to reproduce is attained, and it has been regarded as a period of rapid change, both biologically as a period of rapid change both biologically and psychologically. ठीक है, this is the rapid change period. This is the very much confusing period. This is very much you can say the interesting period or the challenging period basically. So at the both point of view, the biological and the psychological as well as. So though the physical changes that take place during this stage are universal, the social and the psychological dimensions of the adolescence experiences depend on the cultural context. For example, in culture where the adolescence year are viewed as problematic or confusing, the adolescents will have very different experiences from someone who is in a culture where adolescence years are viewed as beginning of adult behavior and therefore undertaking responsible task. And although most societies have a list at least a brief period of adolescence, and it is not universal across culture. That's been in the biological aspects. There are the universal differences, the universal changes are happening, and in the in a psychological characteristic there are variations is in a point of the culture. ठीक है, कल्चरल पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से बहुत सारे वेरिएशंस देखने को मिलते हैं in adolescence. And also the age of adolescence is vary from the culture to culture. कहीं ये 16 की एज मानी जाती है, कहीं 18 की, कहीं 15 की. So variations are there according to culture. Now the first concept here is the physical development. Before that, look at the definition. So the term adolescence derived from the Latin word adolescence, meaning to grow into maturity. That means adolescence is a basically meaning by the biological development, by the physical development, and it is the transitional period in a person's life between the childhood and the adulthood. Let's look at the physical development. Okay, puberty or sexual maturity mark the end of the childhood and signifies the beginning of adolescence, which is characterized by the dramatic physical changes in both growth rate and the sexual characteristics. So let's look at the physical development. Puberty or the sexual maturity marks the end of the childhood and signifies the beginning of adolescence, which is characterized by dramatic physical changes in both growth rate and the sexual characteristic, both type of sexual characteristic, the primary and the secondary. So however, puberty is not a sudden event but is part of a gradual processes. The hormones released during puberty result in the development of the primary or the secondary sexual characteristics. The primary sex characteristics include those directly related to the reproduction, and the secondary sex characteristics including feature or sign of the achieving sexual maturity. Okay. Okay, so as you know, as you already understand the concept of the endocrine system, how the hypothalamus and the other glands are playing a role in a development, and how the developmental hormones, which are growth hormone, are secreted by the anterior pituitary and the control the gonadotropic hormone. Okay, so किस वो आप डिटेल में ऑलरेडी पढ़ चुके हो, so you can correlate here for the developing the primary and the secondary sexual characteristics. ठीक है, primary sexual characteristic that's mean the ability to reproduce. ठीक है, and the secondary characteristic that's mean a sign or the features which show the maturity of the individual. For example, the growth of the hair, the voice change. ठीक है, मेल्स की जो होती है एडोलसेंस पीरियड में जो मेल है उनकी वॉइस चेंज होने लगती है, भारीपन आ जाता है. जो गर्ल्स होती हैं उनकी स्किन लाइट और सॉफ्ट हो जाती है एज़ कम्पेयर टू मैन, और उनकी वॉइस काफ़ी बारीक और महीन होती है. एंड द हेयर इज़ फॉर एग्जांपल जो बॉयज़ उनकी मुस्टैच और दाढ़ी वगैरह आने लगती है. ठीक है, सो ये सारे हमारे सेकेंडरी कैरेक्टरिस्टिक होते हैं. So puberty changes in boys are marked by acceleration in growth, facial hair, and changes in voice, and in girls rapid growth in height usually begin about 2 years before menarche, and the onset of menstruation, the growth spurt generally begin at the age of 12 to 13 for boys, and at the age of 10 or 11 for girls. So it is normal to have variations in the pubertal sequence. For example, among two boys or two girls of same chronological age, one may complete puberty sequence before the other has begun it. So both genetic and the environment plays a part in this. For example, identical twins reach menarche closer in time than do fraternal twins. On an average, girls from affluent families go through menarche earlier than girls from poor families, and historical trends show that the age of menarche is declining in industrialized nation, reflecting better nutrition and the advance in medical care. So these factors are basically influence the development of the menarche. Now, physical development during adolescence is also accompanied by a number of psychological changes around puberty. Adolescents show an increase in interest in members of the opposite sex and in sexual matters and a new awareness of sexual feeling develops. So this increased attention to sexuality is caused by factors such as individuals' awareness of the biological changes taking place and the emphasis placed on sexuality by peers, parents, and societies. Even then, many adolescents lack adequate knowledge or have misconceptions about sex and sexuality. So, sex is a topic parents find difficult to discuss with childhood. So, adolescence tends to become secretive about sexual concern, which make exchange of information and communications difficult. Basically, होता है क्या? This is the age where your body, your physical system is continuously in a process of the change, and you have feel so much stress about the changes. ठीक है, चेंजेस को लेके आप थोड़ा सा स्ट्रेसफुल रहते हो कि पता नहीं ये मेरे साथ ही हो रहा है या सबके साथ हो रहा है. यू आर फीलिंग कि पता नहीं ये जो इससे सारी चेंजेस हैं ये राइट हैं या रॉन्ग हैं, होने चाहिए या नहीं होने चाहिए, और बहुत सारे आप यू आर अट्रैक्टेड विद द अदर अपोजिट सेक्स ड्यू टू सम हार्मोनल चेंजेस, एंड यू थिंक दिस इज ओनली अकॉर्डिंग टू योर पर्सपेक्टिव, सिर्फ आपको हो रहा है ऐसा आपकी प्रॉब्लम, बट दिस इज़ द कॉमन प्रॉब्लम ऑफ ऑल एडल्ट्स. एंड यू आर, ये ऐसी चीज़ें हैं कि आप पूछ भी नहीं सकते हो डायरेक्टली अपने पेरेंट्स से. एट द सेम टाइम यू हैव लैक ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन रिलेटेड टू दिस टाइप ऑफ टॉपिक्स, बट you are interested due to some hormonal changes. So your curiosity is here, your craving is here for the this type of topics, but you cannot directly communicate about this topic, and you don't have sufficient information about this topic. So that's why this is very you can say the topic which is basically a debate topic. ठीक है, आप ये अभी भी डिबेट में चल रहा है कि सेक्सुअल इन्फॉर्मेशन जो है, सेक्सुअल जो एजुकेशन है, सेक्स एजुकेशन, वो किस क्लास से इंट्रोड्यूस कराना चाहिए. अभी भी हमारे एजुकेशन सिस्टम में ये सारी चीज़ें चल रही हैं, क्योंकि इन अप्रोप्रिएट नॉलेज के बेसिस पे बहुत सारे मिसकॉन्सेप्शंस आप डेवलप करते हो, उसके बेसिस पे आपका ओवरऑल डेवलपमेंट बहुत ज़्यादा इन्फ्लुएंस होता है. एंड द इंडियन कल्चर विच इज़ बेसिकली अ कल्चर वेयर यहाँ पे ये सारी चीज़ों को डिस्कस करना, ऐसी चीज़ों को हाईलाइटेड करना, पूछना हमारे कल्चर में एक तरह से टैबू है, बैन है. सो वी आर नॉट ओपनली डिस्कस अबाउट द सेक्स एंड द सेक्सुअलिटी. सो दैट्स वाई ये सारे टॉपिक्स अभी हिडन में चल रहे हैं. बट एट द सेम टाइम सुप्रीम कोर्ट का भी ऑर्डर है और सब तरफ से भी है कि सेक्सुअल इन्फॉर्मेशन एक सर्टन एज के टाइम पे देनी चाहिए स्टूडेंट्स को. एक करिकुलम होना चाहिए, लेक्चर्स होने चाहिए इस टॉपिक पे. दिस इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर यूनिवर्स. दिस इज़ द इंफॉर्मेशन जिसके बेसिस पे हमारी स्पीशीज़ जो है वो ग्रो कर रही है, हमारी स्पीशीज़ जो है वो जनरेशन टू जनरेशन चेंज हो रही है, डेवलप हो रही है. सो दिस इज़ वेरी इम्पॉर्टेंट इन द क्रूशल इंफॉर्मेशन, और हमें इसे एक राइट वे में, राइट मैसेज के थ्रू हमें कम्युनिकेट करना चाहिए, जिससे कि जो अडल्ट्स में कन्फ्यूजन्स हैं वो सारे क्लियर हों. बट स्टिल दिस इज़ द टॉपिक ऑफ द डिबेट. So sex is a topic which parents find difficult to discuss with children. So adolescents tend to become secretive about sexual concern, which make exchange of information and communication difficult. The concern over adolescent sexuality has become intense in recent time because of the risk of AIDS and other sexual transmitted diseases. So the development of a sexual identity define the sexual orientation and guide sexual behavior. As such, it become an important development task for adolescents. And how did you think yourself at the beginning of puberty? Adolescents are preoccupied with what they are like and develop individuals' images of what they look like. Another important development task during adolescence is acceptance one's physical self and maturity. So adolescents needs to develop a realistic image of their physical appearance which is acceptable to them. And it is important to keep in mind that puberty also involves cognitive and social changes along with physical changes. So related to physical changes, there are so much psychological changes, and the cognitive changes are also happening in the age of puberty. So this is all about the physical development. Basically, the individual is physically mature In the period of adolescence, they are showing the primary and the secondary sexual characteristic at the same time. Due to some hormonal changes, due to some release of the hormone, the person is attracted about that opposite sex, and they have so much curiosity, they have so much craving for understanding the sexual behavior, the topic of this sex, and he developing the sexual identity also. At the same time, they are concerned about their physical appearance, their looks, their features, their beauty, how it is acceptable, how it is appropriate or not according to societal norms, according to the societal trends. So this is type of questioning is continuing occurring in a mind of the adolescents. Okay, so this is all about the physical development. Let's move on to the cognitive development or the cognitive developmental changes in adolescence. So basically, the cognitive development is almost completed, the last stage of the cognitive development in adolescence. This is the last stage of cognitive development. So this is about the physical development in the primary sex characteristic, which is the primary sex characteristics include those directly related to reproduction, and the secondary, that's mean the secondary sex characteristics include features or sign for achieving sexual maturity. Now physical development, after that the cognitive development. Okay, so let's move to cognitive development. So adolescents thought become more abstract, logical and idealistic. They become more capable of examine their own thoughts, other thoughts, and what other are thinking about them. Okay, the cognitive development is almost completed. The adolescence is showing the abstract thinking, logical thinking, and the idealistic thinking. They understand themselves better, and they understand other person's view, other person's ideas, other person's experiences also in a better way. So and what of them other are thinking about them. So adolescents developing ability to reasons give them a new level of cognitive and social awareness. Piaget believed that the formal operational thought appear between the age of 11 and the 15. So during this is the last stage of the Jean Piaget, the formal operational thought period. So during this stage, adolescents' thinking expand beyond actual concrete experiences, and they begin to think more in abstract terms and reason about them. So in addition to begin abstract, adolescents' thought is also idealistic. The ideal thought, the reasonable thought, and the abstract thought. Abstract reasoning, logical reasoning, abstract thinking, and at the same time the idealistic thinking is also developed in the period of adolescence. Adolescence begins to think about ideal characteristics for themselves and other, and compare themselves and other with these ideal standards. For example, they may think what an ideal parent is like, and compare their parents with these ideal standards. Okay, they develop a standard of the any attribute, maybe a parents. ठीक है, अब कौन से पेरेंट्स हैं जो एक आइडियल पेरेंट्स की कैटेगरी में आते हैं. व्हाट आर द कैरेक्टरिस्टिक, व्हाट आर द फीचर्स ऑफ a standard or the ideal parents, and they compare the ideal image of the parents and the their real parents. They compare both of the parents, and on the basis of this they decide so many things. So this may at times make adolescents wonder which of the newfound ideal standard ideal standard they should adopt. In contrast to trial and error approach used by children in earlier stage of development, adolescents thinking become more systematic in solving problems. So that means the thinking of the individual during the adolescence is so much systematic, so much organized, symbols basis, symbolic thinking, symbolic thoughts, and the logical, rational, and the idealistic thinking is started at the age of adolescence. And they think of possible courses of action, why something is happening, the why it is and systematically seek solutions. So Piaget called this type of logical thinking is known as hypothetico-deductive model or the hypothetico-deductive reasoning. ठीक है, in the period of formal operational stage, the last stage of the Jean Piaget. सो यहाँ पे बेसिकली जो थिंकिंग होती है, जो थॉट्स होते हैं, वो हमारे एक सिस्टमेटिक, एक ऑर्गेनाइज वे में, एक हायरार्की फॉर्म में सेट होते हैं. एट द रिवर्सिबिलिटी इज ऑल्सो स्टार्ट, वी कैन स्टार्ट फ्रॉम थॉट फ्रॉम 1 to 10, so 10 to 1 ऑल्सो. सो दिस इज द नोन एज द हाइपोथेटिको डिडक्टिव रीजनिंग, जहाँ पे हम कॉजेस के बेसिस पे, हम एक पॉसिबल कोर्स ऑफ एक्शन के बेसिस पे प्रॉब्लम को सॉल्व करते हैं. बेसिकली द एक हाइपोथेसिस फ्रेम करते हैं, उसको जज करते हैं ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ सम स्टेप्स. So this is the hypothetico-deductive model or the deductive reasoning. And the logical thought also influence the development of moral reasoning. When you are logical, your sense of justice is also developed. You are able to understand the moral reasoning, what is the right and what is wrong according to your perspective, because you are internalizing, you are assembling some values, some ideas, some traditions. So that's why you understand the social rules and social norms. So social rules are not considered as a absolute standard, and the moral thinking show some flexibility. So the adolescents recognized alternative moral courses, explores options, and then decide on a personal moral codes. So for example, should I smoke as everyone I know does? So it is basically ethical to copy answer in the examinations. So this also tend the possibility of adolescents not following societal norms, and if they they have conflict with personal code of ethics. For example, individuals at this stage might participate in a postal march for a cause rather than adhere conform to college norms. ठीक है. So basically, in the period of adolescence, they are developing their own values, their own code of ethics, and the societal codes are sometimes play a role as a contradictory. ठीक है, हो सकता है कि उनके पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से, उनके कोड ऑफ एथिक्स से, उनकी जो वैल्यूज़, उनकी जो थॉट है, उनकी जो आइडियाज़ है, उससे कोई चीज़ राइट हो और जो सोसाइटी का नॉर्म्स हो उसके वो रॉन्ग हो. सो दे फॉलो देयर ओन थॉट्स, दे फॉलो देयर ओन कोड ऑफ एथिक्स, नॉट द standard of the society. But at the same time, this is a beginning of the conflict between the societal norms and the individuals norms. ठीक है. सो दिस टाइम पे हो सकता है कि वो किसी चीज़ को इसलिए नहीं मान रहे हैं बिकॉज somebody is फोर्सिंग फॉर दैट. ठीक है, कोई उनको फोर्स कर रहा है उस चीज़ के लिए, या वो चीज़ें सोसाइटी के लिए राइट है. नो, इफ़ दे फील दिस इज़ राइट, ओनली देन दे फॉलो इट. ठीक है. तो उनको उनके लैंग्वेज में समझाना होता है, उनको अपने कोड ऑफ एथिक्स को फॉलो करना होता है. ठीक है. वो इसलिए कोई बिहेवियर नहीं करेंगे, किसी चीज़ को फॉलो नहीं करेंगे क्योंकि वो सोसाइटी के लिए राइट है, बल्कि वो उनके लिए राइट होगी. ओनली देन दे बिहेव इन अ मैनर. मतलब वो एक डेवलपिंग पीरियड में होते हैं, उनकी मॉरलिटी डेवलप हो चुकी होती है और वो समझ सकते हैं, खुद समझ सकते हैं कि व्हाट इज़ रॉन्ग एंड व्हाट इज़ राइट. सो दैट्स वाई बहुत सारे कॉन्ट्राडिक्टरी इश्यूज भी वहाँ पे अराइज होते हैं. And adolescents also develop a special kind of egocentrism. According to David Alkine, there is a concept of imaginary audience and the personal fable. So imaginary audience, this is a very beautiful concept. I also experienced in the time of my adolescence. ठीक है. ऐसा फील होता है जब आप एडल्सेंस पीरियड में होते हो, तो आपको हमेशा ऐसा लगता है कि सब आपको देख रहे हैं, है ना. दिस इज़ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग फैक्ट. एज अ गर्ल, जब हम गर्ल्स की बात करें, स्पेशली मेरा पर्सनल एक्सपीरियंस, क्योंकि मैं गर्ल हूँ तो वैसा रहा है, तो जब हम किसी पार्टी वगैरह में जाते हैं और ड्रेसअप होते हैं, मेकअप करते हैं, तो हमें ऐसा फील होता है उस टाइम, मतलब होता था फील कि सब मुझे ही देख रहा है, मैं अच्छी लग रही हूँ या नहीं. और वो एक कहावत है ना कि अगर कोई नहीं देखे तो क्यों नहीं देख रहा है, देख रहा है तो क्यों देख रहा है. तो ये सारी चीज़ें बहुत माइंड में रहती थी. मतलब ऐसा लगता है कि मतलब आई एम अ सेंटर ऑफ अट्रैक्शन, आई एम इन अ सेंटर इन द ऑल वर्ल्ड आर सीइंग मी. सारा वर्ल्ड सिर्फ मुझे ही देख रहा है, जो भी कुछ हो रहा है, भले कोई आपको देख रहा है नहीं देख रहा है, आपके लुक्स के लिए कोई कमेंट करे ना करे, कोई नोटिस करे भी ना करे, बट यू आर वरिंग अबाउट योर लुक्स और अबाउट योर फीचर्स. आप एक ऐसे पीरियड में होते हो कि आपको लगता है कि सब सिर्फ आप ही को देख रहा है, ऑलवेज आप उसके अकॉर्डिंग बिहेव करते हो. ठीक है. सो दिस इज द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ द इमेजिनरी ऑडियंस. यू इमेजिन द ऑडियंस. ठीक है, कि यू आर ऑलवेज इन अ सेंटर ऑफ अट्रैक्शन, यू आर ऑलवेज इन अ स्टेज एंड द ऑल पीपल्स आर सीइंग यू. तो आप हमेशा अपनी हर छोटी से छोटी माइनर से माइनर चीज़ों को बहुत माइल्यूटली नोटिस करते हो, उन्हें चेंज करते हो. अगर आपको ज़रा सा भी लगता है कोई चीज़ की प्रॉब्लम है तो उसको आप तुरंत चेंज करते हो, क्योंकि आपको लगता है कि सब आप ही को देख रहे हैं. दिस इज़ अ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग कॉन्सेप्ट. And the second concept is the personal fable. So these two components of adolescence: egocentrism, first is imaginary audience, and is adolescents believe that other are as preoccupied with them as they are about themselves, and they imagine that peoples are always noticing them and are observing each and every behavior of theirs. So imagine a boy who think that all will notice the ink spot on his shirt, or a girl with a pimple feels all people would think how bad her skin is. So it is the imaginary audience which makes them extremely self conscious, basically. And the personal fable is part of the adolescence egocentrism that involve their sense of uniqueness. Okay, that's mean a personal fable, you feel you are very much unique, you are different. The desire of uniqueness is so much high in this period. हर इंडिविजुअल दूसरे से अलग, दूसरे से डिफरेंट दिखाने के लिए अपने को बहुत सारा एफर्ट करता है. दे शोइंग आई एम सो मच यूनिक, आई एम सो मच डिफरेंट. ठीक है, ऐसी टेंडेंसी होती है अंदर से उसे दिखाने के लिए. एंड यू अंडरस्टैंड द imaginary audience. Okay, so imaginary audience and the personal fable are included in the egocentrism. ठीक है. आप at the time of the formal operational, the last stage of Piaget's, यहाँ पे भी आपका ये ईगोसेंट्रिज्म का कॉन्सेप्ट एप्लीकेबल होता है. एंड दीज टू एस्पेक्ट्स आर इंक्लूडेड इन द ईगोसेंट्रिज्म, जहाँ आप इमेजिन कर रहे हो कि सारी वर्ल्ड, सारा दुनिया जो है, सारे पीपल्स जो है वो सिर्फ और सिर्फ आपको ही देख रहे हैं. आप यू आर सो मच सेल्फ कॉन्शियस. And in a personal favor you are feeling कि you are so much different, you are so much unique, and you are even trying to do unique. ठीक है, आप यूनिक दिखने के लिए बहुत सारी चीज़ें करते हैं कि मुझे सबसे अलग दिखना है, सबसे हट के दिखना है, सबसे यूनिक दिखना है. ठीक है. एंड आई थिंक आप लोग भी ऐसा फील करते होगे. इफ येस देन ऑनलाइन क्लास में एक बार इस टॉपिक पे ज़रूर डिबेट करेंगे कि कैसा आपका एक्सपीरियंस रहता है इस फील्ड में. So this is all about the almost cognitive development, and the last topic is the forming an identity, which we will cover in our next video. So this is all about today. We start from the concept of adolescence. What is adolescence according to the typical meaning? ठीक है, that's mean एक ऐसा person जो कि मैच्योरिटी से ऑलमोस्ट मैच्योरिटी के करीब हो या मैच्योर हो रहा हो. दैट्स मीन द अडोलसेंस वर्ड इज बेसिकली एक्सप्लेन द फिजिकल मैच्योरिटी. द फिजिकल मैच्योरिटी बेसिकली बताता है. आफ्टर दैट वी हैड कवर्ड द physical development, the primary sexual characteristic and the secondary sexual characteristic, and the how the biological and the physical development is related to the psychological development. ठीक है, how the changes of the chemical changes of the hormones are developing the interest of the opposite sex, and so much confusion, so much interest, so much curiosity in this period. बहुत सारी चीज़ें डिस्कस की हमने. आफ्टर दैट स्टार्टेड द कॉग्निटिव डेवलपमेंट, एंड इन कॉग्निटिव डेवलपमेंट देयर आर so many concepts which we had discussed just. Okay, this is all about today videos. We are continuing adolescence period in our next video also. Thank you so much class.